Good evening and welcome to the March 2026 transmission of Galactic Terrors, the online reading series that scours the known universe for scary stories, strange tales, weird horror, and all sorts of literary oddities from the most imaginative authors writing in a variety of fascinating genres. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you all for your patience as we worked through our technical difficulties tonight. Unexpected, first time we've ever really had an issue on StreamYard, and I was desperately looking for one of those old please stand by technical difficulties graphics from like the 1960s that used to see, or 70s on TV, and I just couldn't find one. And as you can see, our technical difficulties have not fully been resolved. And I fear this might be the actual situation. Carol has been reduced to a disembodied voice. Hi, Carol.
Yeah. So I'm delighted that we're working, and that's really cool. I'm closing up those things that are echoing. There we go. So we got everybody else, but you know what? Seeing me is about the least important thing, but I do want to say I specifically washed my hair for this show tonight, and I look terrific. So everybody just please picture that.
You're wearing your Oscars red carpet outfit.
Yes, of course I am. Yes.
Well, I'm James Chambers. Carol Gyzander is here as co-host, and we have three awesome readers tonight: Charles Barouch, Matthew KRESSEL, and L.E. Daniels.
Yeah.
And that's about as far as my brain has gotten after fixing all of these issues and rebooting and relinking.
Well, good job. Good job. So Jim made us a new event. We appreciate y'all coming over with us, but let's just tell you a few things that are going on real quick, and then we're going to get right into the readings because everybody's been waiting so long. But if you're in the New York City area, there is a free event at the Twisted Spine, which is the new horror bookstore in Brooklyn. It's horror all the time. And it's the Twisted Spine Indie Publisher Book Fair. That's coming up on Sunday, March 22nd from 11 to 5. And they're at 306 Grand Street in Brooklyn, and it's free. So there's a ton of indie publishers there that are all horror stuff. We've got Clash Books, Hell's 100, Creature Publishing, Raw Dog Screaming Press, The Feminist Press, Whiskey Tit, and more. I just want to point out that those are all really cool publishing presses, and I don't know them all, but I'm really looking forward to getting to see them this weekend. So that should be really cool.
Fantastic.
So also, HWA has announced a bunch of their specialty awards, which is pretty exciting. Sarah Reed received the Karen Lansdale Silver Hammer Award. HWA periodically gives this an award to an HWA volunteer who's done a truly massive amount of work for the organization, often unsung and behind the scenes. And Mark as well, right, Jim?
Yeah, Mark Abbott, our vice president and our fellow HWA NY chapter member, is receiving the Richard Lehman President's Award for Service. It goes to a volunteer who has served the HWA in an exemplary manner and shown extraordinary dedication to the organization, which Mark certainly has.
Yeah, that's quite true. You know, and I'm very excited for him. Also, Eric Winyard received the Mentor of the Year Award. It recognizes one mentor in the program who's done an outstanding job of helping new writers. And that's one of the great benefits of being a member of HWA. Is that people can participate in the mentorship program.
Yeah.
And one more.
Yeah, the fourth specialty award is the Specialty Press of the Year Award. And this is going to Bad Hand Books. And this is presented periodically to a specialty publisher whose work has substantially contributed to the horror genre, whose publications display general excellence and whose dealings with authors have been fair and exemplary. And Bad Hand Books has published quite a few excellent works since they opened up shop some years ago. Most recently, I think, and probably their most noteworthy is and I'm going to blank on the name of it because it's just been that kind of day, but it's the recent anthology inspired by Stephen King's The Stand, the authorized Stand anthology. I'm holding it up right now. Yes.
The End of the World as We Know It, right?
Yes, thank you. I knew The End of the World was in there. I just could not remember the exact wording.
Yes, edited by Christopher Golden and Brian Keene. And it's a big boy. It's such a cool book.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. If you're here, please go ahead and click like and subscribe below on YouTube so that you get updates for when we're going to be sending future Galactic Terrors transmissions. We are generally airing the second Thursday of the month, except this month and other months when we have to change the date for some reason. Which is infrequent but does happen. And so we also recommend, if you want to follow Galactic Terrors, to sign up for our newsletter, and we'll get that link into the chat in just a minute or two. And we send out the newsletter, I think, twice a month, once just to announce the next transmission, and then once closer to the date to remind you that we're coming on and to join us for the live stream. And I think with that said, since we're so far behind this evening, why don't we just go ahead and jump into our readings, Carol?
Yeah, I think that's really exciting. I can't wait. Well, we've been waiting.
Yeah.
All right. But our first reader tonight is Charles Barouch. He has 5 stories in a cultural archive on the moon. If you're on Earth, you can find his stories on Kindle, Nook, and Kobo. Start with Tiago and the Masterless, science fiction, or Endless Hunger, horror, or anthologies published by Daniel Arthur Smith, Shebat Legion, Raventail, Celestial Echo Press, and more. He's published in science fiction, fantasy, horror, humor, and Western genres, and he's not done yet. More about Charles Barouch at hwp.com. Charles?
Well, today, instead of horror, I think I'm going to read you a little bit of Western. So this is from the upcoming book, Marshall Theo Starr, Sundown and High Noon. And let's read along a little bit. I'm going to give you 2 excerpts. In the morning, I sit for a meal with my friends from Jackson Quarter. I run through the what all been happening of late. They's both good listeners. Never known neither of them to be anything but appreciative of a good yarn. Mesmer, Jonas says as he's chewing his steak. Ain't quite caught that. Francis Mesmer, he says. Think he's got the name Francis. There's a penny dreadful about him. Walked women round and round a vat of fumes, made them listen to all sorts of mean words that men ain't supposed to say to women, clouded their minds, made them do things. You think Sundown, I begins. Yes, sir, I think he's using that mesmerism on you. Fog up your head till everything between your ears is cotton and clouds, Jonas says. He takes another bite and smiles around it like he just solved something. 3 problems, Vita says back. First is that the Turk ain't taking any stroll around any vat. Second, he ain't said a word about fumes. Third, he ain't a woman. You ain't, is you? Truth for truth, I agrees. Vita's righter than right on all 3. But do me a favor, Vita. Put done with calling me Turk. Round here they call me Theo Starr. Stupid sort of name, Vita says. Still in the same, she nods her agreement, and I consider the matter of my name a settled thing. I take a sip and look at thems. Missed all this sitting about with Jackson Quarter folk. Simpler life. Wish what's happening ain't happening, what with me having an ear out for gunshots all the time. Vapors, Jonas says. When women get the vapors, there's a little thing they put under their noses. Maybe your Sundown fellow has a little thing, not a vat, but secret fumes. Something like that, like a thing what can be held in a pocket. You get any further out on that limb, it'll break out from under your weight, I say, laughing. But you had a foggy head and done what all ain't your nature to be doing, Jonas insisted. Still in the same, life ain't your penny dreadfuls, Jonas, I says. We go back to chewing for a while, and after time, more than a few sips of the weak beer that what Enidvale offers, we get back to the matters at hand. However many bad men we got coming, I'll see to them, I tells them. I take your help, still in despite. That's a choice, not a necessity. Ain't need us for the fight? We could ride south. We could deal with the vampire, Jonas offered. Vampire? I asks. Even your Sundown feller ain't a mesmer, maybe he's one of them vampires. Jonas looks at me like it makes sense. A vampire? Where's all this coming from, Jonas? Gonna call Sundown a cattywampus next, I asks. Jonas winces. I ain't ought to said that. Cattywampus been chasing his family for a generation. Beast even stepped in on Anton's funeral. My best friend, Jonas's cousin. Theo, I reminds him. Marshal Starr, even that falls out of your mouth better. We come as friends, Vita says, which means manners, good manners. Seems you both forgot that. Sorry, I says. Only trying to, Jonas says. We both go quiet for a bit. Vita orders another round of the weak beer. We drink in silence. Don't go visit Sundown, I says. Need you here for the trouble what's coming. Not true words, and I hate saying them. Telling lies to liars is one thing. Them's good people. Still in the same, Jonas needs to hear it, so I put it in the air to be heard. Cut a man down when ain't deserved it. Least I can do is offer a hand back up. Oh, more than that. Need to put right between us. I'll notion on another thing I might do for him. And here's one more excerpt from the book, just because I love talking about Jonas and Vita. They're some of my favorite characters. Mountain takes, that's for damn sure. But Hiram ain't one we lost to the riggers. He got took from us by lowly men like those what followed Joe Double Damn Bones. I walk back to the cells. I want to talk to the one man I have from that gang. He was chatty when I caught him. Maybe he got more to say. He better. Mr. Batterson, I says, how about we have us another chat? He's curled up in the corner of his cell faced away. Something wrong in how he looks. I unlock the door and step inside. He ain't moving. I turn him on his back. Man's deader than a stuffed deer head. Wilder, I hollers. Batterson have any visitors? Wilder comes back toward the cells and he looks down at the dead man. Not a one. When you feed the prisoners? Just before you went to eat with your friends, he says. If I'd known he'd be dead, I would have saved the trouble. That's a more sour note than I tend to hear from you. I used to be a happier person, Theo. Not asking to leave your side, but between the Culvers and the men what come on us and count to Al-Hajj, I'm losing some of my calm. And now we have this Joe Bones fella. Maybe you should ask, tells him. This work we do, it ain't for most honest folk. Dealing with bad men makes you look deep into your own bad. What about you, Theo? Wilder Pickens? I have seen my own evil, and I know it. I hold it close, and when I can't, I go off alone and practice with my scimitar. You're what now? I have a blade, big long one with a really nasty curve, I says. I took it off men who wanted me dead. Have two in honest truth. Used to test myself again my friend Anton. Better man never walked. Well, except my brother and my friend Hiram. Now I find myself out there alone. Maybe I should learn those blades. We can beat our demons together. Even we live through this Joe Bones situation, I says. Right now I have a powerful need to know what killed this man here. I pull Batterson's shirt open. There's a bullet hole in his chest right through his heart. No blood, though. None. No damage to the shirt. Someone come in here, I says. Someone he trusted. Walked up on him, slid a gun barrel between them bars, right against his skin. Seems not all those Bones men are outside the town, Wilder says. That's a worrisome thought. We head back into the front room of my new office. I tell all to Jonas and Vita. Wild offers her a gun. Vita laughs. I got a throwing axe, she says as she waggles it back and forth. This is a killing matter, Jonas says to his wife. You only ever see me throw to miss, Vita says. If and I aim to aim, no man stands after. Be glad you ain't had to know that till now. You've killed before? Jonas asks Vita. Something a man should know about his wife, she says. Wondered how you never asked. That there ain't an answer, Jonas said. It well and truly ain't, she agreed. And that's from Marshal Theo Starr, Sundown and High Noon, which is due out from Dusty Saddle in April. I hope you guys all come and read.
Charles, thank you so much. I liked how you literally changed hats to dip into the Westerns for us tonight. So I mean, you are writing in so many different genres, and you're writing so frequently. You really are a prolific writer.
Thank you.
Perhaps second only to our good friend Teal, James Glenn. What drives you to write so much, and what drives you to switch genres?
You know, I write characters, and when I write characters, they have to be in the milieu, in the area that they belong in. And it's also funny to me, whenever people talk about genre, I mean, we have to respect certain tropes when you're writing a genre. You have to meet reader expectations. That's the job, and it's a job you should respect. But at the same time, I've looked at stuff I've written that I've called science fiction and realized it's horror.
Mm.
I've written stuff that I've considered humor and realized that it's got science fiction to it. That I don't know that genres are such a hard barrier for writers, but they're a very hard barrier for some readers. They help them pre-select things. So I want to reach as many people as I can, and that means stretching to different genres. I also find every genre I approach makes me better at the other ones.
Sure. Well, you have to learn a new set of conventions, familiarize yourself with tropes, learn the rules, do different research. Do you think readers really are locked in on genre? I think we've talked about genre in a way sometimes where it's more of the business of publishing likes to have genre because then they know which shelf to put the book on in the bookstore.
Well, I see it two ways. Some people are locked in as in they've seen something they don't like in horror, so they decide they don't like horror because they've seen one thing, or they've seen one thing in science fiction that makes them uncomfortable. I always tell people, my mom would say, I don't like fantasy. I'd say, what's your favorite movie? She'd say, Wizard of Oz. So sometimes genre locks people in because they get an opinion about one or two stories, and then they decide that's the entire genre. And there are people who are genre readers. I mean, when I was younger, if it was science fiction or fantasy, it was in my hand. It didn't matter whether I knew the author. It didn't know whether I knew that series or not. That first book was in my hand guaranteed. So, it's both ways. It's an attractor and it's a detractor. But that's also why I try to write broadly. It's also why I write under different pen names sometimes, because I know some audiences are not likely to cross over with me.
Yeah. Well, I've met a lot of, well, not a lot, but I've met a fair number of people who say they don't like horror, and talking to them about it, they just have the sense that all horror is gory. It's chainsaws and zombies. It's slasher movies and things like that. And do you see that, maybe an opportunity to win people over to, let's say, one genre from another if you mix them a little bit? And so you've written a Western that has horror elements and people realize, oh, I really liked that.
Well,
Do you think you can get them to jump to a full horror novel?
I absolutely feel that possibility is there. I chose to write my Westerns under a different pen name to keep them separate from my science fiction and fantasy and everything else in my horror work. Because I don't think what I'm writing, I mean, I've got people speculating about vampires. I've got a cattywampus that has shown up in pretty much every book. So there are horror elements in there, but I don't think what I'm writing is the right thing to help people make that jump. And I don't think I'm hitting the right audience. There are other people who can do it, and I welcome them to do it. But for me personally, the notes that I'm hitting, I feel are different enough that there might be crossover, but I wouldn't expect it to be significant.
Do you have a favorite genre that you write in?
So the genre I've been published in, least of the ones I've been published in, is fantasy, and it's also my favorite genre.
Interesting.
That goes along with all the years that I was a reporter in various types. I was doing low-level journalism, writing about all the creative people that I wasn't being, and was telling them, I'm a fantasy author. They go, what have you written? I'd show them my articles. They'd go, that's not fantasy. I'd show them the interviews I had done for Database Trends. They go, that's not fantasy. I'd show them the tech articles from International Spectrum. Like, that's not fantasy. So I guess it's kind of on brand for me that the thing I publish the least is the thing I enjoy the most.
Okay. Which kind of fantasy are you talking? High fantasy or more like R.E. Howard fantasy?
Both, more toward the high, but I've written some unpublished stuff that's much more Robert E. Howard, or actually, in all honesty, more Fafford and the Grey Mouser, which is probably my sweet spot, is the kind of sweet, kind of hapless, but still quite capable hero.
Right.
The very, very human hero, especially when you're in a fantasy world where human's a category, bringing out that kind of personality in elves and dwarves and fairies and making them still distinct races while giving them qualities that appeal. That's a lot of fun to me.
That's awesome. And then I'm really I'm interested in writers who change genres. So just another question about that. Aside from changing hats, literally, do you do anything to prepare yourself to write write a particular genre?
So with the Westerns, I was trying to get the language right.
Yeah.
And I hadn't realized how invested I got until my voice assistant on my phone couldn't recognize my voice anymore. I'm heading to my gaming group. I'm going, call Aaron Young mobile, because I'm about to pick up my friend Aaron, and nothing's working. Finally, it dawned on me. It's like, oh, call Aaron Young mobile.
Yes.
And then suddenly the voice assistant worked. But I had not realized that part of my prep.
Voice recognition isn't programmed for accents from the 19th century.
Especially when you started with a different accent, you come around to this, and this ain't your natural way of speaking.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, friends of mine who are more naturally speakers with that accent make a lot of fun of me when I say that I speak that properly. They see it a little as caricature, but it's as close as I can get.
And then that helps you get into character, or that just happens organically when you're thinking about a character?
Well, one of my biggest problems writing Westerns is different people have different amounts and qualities of slang, and giving each of them their own proper dialogue, where I know some of them will use ain't, most of them will, but not all of them. And some of them will have certain expressions that have gone around their environment, and some people are from a different group, so they don't have the same slang.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a big challenge for me, is keeping all my characters true to how they speak, which is a big part of how I put personality on page with the Westerns.
Right. Interesting. All right. Well, Charles, thank you so much for reading with us. We'll have you back a little bit later to talk about what you have coming up next, which I'm sure will be very interesting. And I'll be curious to see how many hats you put on at that point.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Charles.
Yep.
All right. Our next reader tonight is Matthew Kressel. Matthew is a multiple Nebula and World Fantasy Award nominated author and coder. His many works of short fiction have appeared in Analog, Asimov's, F&SF, Lightspeed, Clark's World, Tor.com, Reactor, Beneath Ceaseless Skies, and many other publications and anthologies, including multiple years' bests. His most recent books are The Rain Seekers from Tor.com, Space Trucker Jess, and his short story collection Histories Within Us. Alongside Ellen Datlow, he runs the Fantastic Fiction at KGB Reading Series in Manhattan. He co-hosts the Nerd Count podcast with Mercurio de Rivera, and he is the creator of Moksha, the submission system used by many of the largest publishers today. You can find out more about Matthew at MatthewKressel.net. Let's welcome Matthew.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Carol. Love the reading, Charles. That was awesome. I love voices and I love characters. That was really cool. I'm going to read from what you just saw, The Rain Seekers, which is my new novella, which is out from Tor.com just a few weeks now. And it's sort of my take on optimistic science fiction. I wrote this. I started it during the first COVID lockdown. And I was pretty depressed, feeling just blue, and the state of the world just really upset me. So I was like, I want to write something optimistic. I want to write something that's going to improve my mood and maybe improve the mood of others. So I started it. Then I trunked it because it was like really hard to write, actually. And in my head, I was like, this is terrible. I'm never going to be able to do this right. I pulled it out of the drawer 2 years later. And I was like, actually, this is pretty good. I'm going to finish this. So it actually, in my opinion, came out really good. Obviously, that's subjective. You may feel differently, but I'll just give you a little setup. It's about a group of people who are hoping to be the first to experience rain on Mars. So they're basically traveling across the Martian plains, and Mars has been partially terraformed by humanity, but it's not completely terraformed. So there's not always enough oxygen to breathe. So you have to wear masks a lot of times. It's cold. It's very frigid. There's snow, but it hasn't rained. So the story is narrated by a young Mexican expat. Her name is Secunja Salazar, and she's a former social media influencer who became disillusioned with that life and decided to become a Martian photographer a la Ansel Adams. And she was basically hired by a magazine to document this adventure. So it's told from her point of view. And I'm just going to read a short little section here. Secunja has just, they've gone to bed. They go to sleep inside these enclosed tents because the air isn't always breathable. So this chapter is chapter 3. It's called The Forge of Hephaestus. After weeks of unhealthy binge drinking, drug abuse, periods of depression, and self-inflicted sleep deprivation, waking up to screams from the deepest sleep I've had in months is, to put it mildly, horrifying. The screams thrust me to wakefulness with a stab of ice to my chest. Did our tent tear? Am I going to suffocate and die? This far out from the city, how long would it take for rescue to reach us? 6 hours? 60? It seems like every day I hear about someone killed on a walkabout, stumbling too far from a city for rescue, dying from exposure or suffocation, or, more often than is healthy for a species vain enough to think that it can bring life to a dead world, stupidity. And I'll lie with them, the perennial stupid, fated to die on this fool's errand, to dance in the maybe rain with a bunch of neo-hippies. It seemed like a grand idea when I was tucked safely in bed back in Elysium, 30 stories underground, protected by walls and abstractions 50 meters thick. But out here, bumbling across his body like a louse on a man, Mars can do with us as he pleases. He is a capricious god. But I soon come to realize that these shouts that ripped me so painfully from sleep are from excitement, not fear. All y'all, mask up and come outside now. You have to see this. E2 Cruz's crackling voice blasts from the comm, broadcasting on the public channel to all 46 of us. KS E2, someone says, ¿Hay algo mal? Just fucking come out and look. I must have suited up 1,000 times to capture photos of Mars's slowly morphing landscapes. But today, for some stupid reason, I'm a dust virgin. I can't pull up a fucking zipper. But my bunkmate, Arcadia Misang, is also my safety buddy, and she ain't gonna miss the show, whatever this is. And so she pretty much throws me into my thermals and slaps a mask on my face, making me feel so much like a bumbling child, I almost cry. Now, coveralls donned, oxygen flowing, the 4 of us unzip our tent and step into the pre-dawn light. Frigid air nips my cheeks, tossing me back to the countless times I stepped out of a buggy or hab onto the rim of some crater or shore of an ancient sea, so I could capture the delicate way the light fell over the ancient crimson dust and the patches of blue-green lichen flecking the landscape. Christ, I thought I was the fucking Ansel Adams of Mars, but I don't have my ancient film camera with me now. Too bulky, I thought. One more thing to worry about, I told myself back in Elysium, when I was prepping for this fool's mission and popping way too many stims for my own good. I got plenty of portable ones I can bring. And on this frigid Martian morning, I will run outside before I remember to grab a single one of them. Einstein said his greatest blunder was the cosmological constant. Mine will be forgetting to take a picture. Me, Secunja Salazar, lapsed hollow-star and thrice-spoiled geek, who for nearly a decade did nothing but take photos, will somehow, on this glorious morning sunrise, forget to take one. and so will everyone else. I know it's impossible to believe that all 46 assholes who hide themselves out onto this frigid plain, hoping to be the first humans to feel it rain on Mars, to experience rain on another planet, will forget to take a picture, that none of us had optics or pads or a single goddamn dragonfly flitting about. But it's the truth. It's as if the vast spectacle of the morning will knock us back to pre-savanna apes, and our thoughts will turn only to survival and awe. I'll loathe myself later for this horrid mistake, drowning my shame in drugs and drink for allowing this moment to be lost to time. I'll try to console myself that forgetting was a good thing, that maybe none but us pilgrims were meant to see this glorious morning, that this precious moment was meant to be fleeting and sacred and holy and all that mystical, divine, celestial jazz, and not mired with something so crude as a digital recording. But this is bullshit, an excuse I'll make to stave off the tidal waves of regret that I know will haunt me forever. For fuck's sake, this spectacle that I'm seeing now is the most beautiful thing I have or will ever see in my life, and all I will have of it later is a rapidly fading memory of the ineffable. If I try to describe it to you, I'll fail, but try I will anyway. On Earth, the sky is blue, and on mornings and evenings, there is moisture in the air, and the sky will turn orange. On Mars, before the great terraforming project, the colors were reversed. The noon sky was a dusty orange-brown, and on mornings and evenings, the sky turned a faint powder blue. But as the atmospheric gases slowly thicken and change, as we make Mars more Earth-like, the daytime sky has a faint tinge of blue, and in the mornings and evenings, a touch of orange. But now, on this frigid Gemini morning, the sky is aflame. From the flat northern plains down to the prickly southern mountains, a living belt of carmine rings the horizon. It's the color of blood and roses and autumn maples. And above this, the belt bleeds into a fierce band of orange, the color of young goldfish and ripe pumpkin and fresh carrots. And as the orange spreads, it fans out and up, and its flame licks push away the darkness of night, and the sky fills with 1 billion purple streams, the color of orchids and butterflies and eggplants and lilac. The sky has become an enormous blossoming flower. And at its center, mere seconds after I step outside, a blinding pistol of light crests the horizon. Is this how bees see flowers, blazing in sacred glory? This burning ball of hydrogen, 1.5 times smaller than it appears from Earth, is the source of all known life. And in this moment, I feel that Madre Soul is alive too, staring down at us with her single, loving, burning eye, pleased at how we, her children, have minded her garden. But as she swiftly rises, the colors fade. The stars respectfully bow and vanish in her indomitable glory. The brightest and boldest are the last to flee, but even they soon depart. The azure jewel of royal earth lingers for a time in holy deference until she too bows and takes her leave. Everyone stares, transfixed, hypnotized into immobility. We are motes of dust compared to her, and yet in a strange way I feel Madre Soul loves us no less for our diminutive size. My heart soars with the angels, my head swells with trumpet fanfare, and were I to die in this moment, I would not be afraid. Later, I'll try to recall this feeling and fail, and I'll attribute my mystical fancies to lack of sleep and residual adrenaline from being startled awake, but I'll never look at the sun the same way again. The first to break the spell is Kyoko Matsuo, our meteorologist and unofficial leader. "This is a fantastic sign," she says. A high humidity front's heading our way. The calm channel explodes with excited chatter, like the flocks of grackles that chittered on mornings outside my childhood window. And when their voices wane enough for me to get a word in, I say, "Fuck, did anyone take a picture? Please tell me someone got a pic or vid, right? Right?" Dear reader, you already know the answer. Thank you.
So, can you hear me, Matt?
Yes, I can.
All right, cool. Jim, what can we switch and put Matt on the left-hand side? Let me try something. I'm not sure if we can do that.
Oh, there you go.
All right, so, all right, look, I put a picture of myself up, so at least you're not talking to a black box.
There you are.
Yeah. It's not really me, but no, that's a fig Newton of your imagination. I have to tell you now, in real life, I am actually holding up your book too, because this was so cool. I've been having so much fun reading it, and it's really cool to, yes, thank you. It's really cool hearing you read the words as well. I found this to be quite a striking book because, yes, it's this woman who's up there and she's going to go interview all the people on Mars who are, they're going out to see the rain for the first time and such. But you're bringing so much more to this story with all the different people she's interviewing and the things we're learning about it. What brought you into this idea of interviewing all the people in the book and doing it this way?
So I think I wanted to focus on narratives of like overcoming hardship. So one of the things that I didn't mention in my intro is not only is Secunja documenting the adventure, she's interviewing people along the way. And they start off with 46 people. She doesn't get to interview all 46, but she, along the way, she like asks them, "How did you get here? How did you get to Mars?" And they all tell these, I guess, very deep and sometimes, very personal, hopefully poignant stories about their past and the difficulties that they had. And I think the overall thing I was trying to go for is that, I think collectively as a species, like when we put our minds to things like positive things, we can really do amazing things. And just to highlight that, I wanted to have like each individual character kind of go through a sort of microscopic version of that, and then have that sort of painted on a larger narrative of everyone, and it's not every character necessarily has a happy ending, but it's I really wanted to focus on their personal arcs, because I think when a story is personal, when you really get into a character's head, I think me as a reader, I like that a lot more than like when I'm really distant from characters,
Yeah. It's working so well because as we read through, we're getting the story of the main character, the interviewer, who's doing all this work up there and how she got there and such. But each of these stories I've been encountering, it's like, wow, they are extremely poignant, and they're talking a lot about what society on Earth was like before they left and went to Mars, and maybe why they went. And it's fascinating to think about how everyone's past experience is going to affect the way a settlement would be. It's different from just a town on Earth where everybody, has their own lives. Everybody here has something pretty spectacular.
And I think too, like the Mars itself in the book is very unfinished. It's not like oh, it's a settled place now. It's still very much like, and I wouldn't quite call it Wild West, but it has that like unfinished feel to it. And I think that it's sort of a metaphor for like a lot of the characters, like they're still building their future. And I again, going back to that theme of like resilience and hope, like, your story's unfinished. As long as you're still alive, your story's not finished,
And even just the idea that they're all out there in a tent, hoping that it doesn't pop a leak and, they die.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's brave. Yeah, it's very cool. So I'm also wondering how this fits in with your other kinds of work, because you do a lot of really cool hard science fiction stuff. So I think you're very good at this. What is your background in the other sci-fi helping with this story?
Well, there's this. A lot of my stories take place in a similar universe I call the Terra Diaspora, and it's basically they're like, not everything is like very obviously connected, but there's if you read my work, you'll say, oh wait, I recognize that from that other story. So they're all kind of like riffing off of each other. I don't want to necessarily link them too closely together, because then I think that sometimes you can get locked into a specific narrative, and it's like, well, if I want to play in this other place, I want to go in this other area, and I don't necessarily want to use those themes or those ideas in this story. I don't always do that. But I just love writing science fiction, I think it's my favorite genre to read too.
Yeah. I grew up reading science fiction, so I'm just wondering, is Space Trucker Jest going to wind up on Mars? Because that would be cool. Yeah.
She does talk about it briefly, like, because she's like, oh, like someone's like, oh, I'd always love to see the rainforest on Mars. So, I guess the terraforming worked.
Yeah, cool. Well, we have a question from Jim Ryan, who's wanting to know, what made you choose Rain on Mars as the main setting for this? What was it about Mars that got you?
Yeah, I think Mars has always had like a romantic view for humanity. Like, ever since Percival Lowell thought he saw canals on Mars, and there was, I forgot where I read it, but there was a study or just an article that said that during like the late 19th century up until like we got really good telescopes, like people were just like, yeah, there's probably life on Mars, there's probably intelligent, like it was very common belief that people thought that there was life on Mars. And in terms of its rotational period, like its day is very similar to an Earth day. Its year is just about almost twice Earth's. The gravity's lighter; it's a third. I think it'd probably be really, really hard to terraform Mars based on what we know now, because it doesn't have a strong magnetic field, and I think some of the chemicals in the soil, the perchlorates, would be really hard to grow things in. But I think it's just going back to that whole romantic thing. It's the moon is like what, a day and a half away. Mars is like months away. So it's sort of like, I imagine the early travelers across the ocean. They just traveled across the ocean, going to a new land, and hopefully making a new life in this new place, and not knowing what to expect when they got there. And I feel like it's a romantic view. It has a lot of possibilities. So I think I really like that.
Yeah, that's very cool. And just the things they were saying in the book, that this area used to be the bottom of a lake. It's like, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Now there's one thing in here, that the part you just read that you described so well, because I actually had that happen to me. I wasn't on Mars, but I was close. I was in Red Rock country out in Utah, and I got to the hotel in the middle of the night, and I woke up in the morning with the sun streaming in the window, and I look out and I'm like, oh my gosh. I don't know if I can actually display two pictures, but I'll just put this up. See this real quick? That's what I saw out my window with that red rock there. And I'm like, oh, look at that. The sun was going to change. I'm like, wait, where's my camera? How do I do this? What do and I had that exact same feeling that you were talking about. So it really, you hit that perfectly, because I lived through that. That was really pretty awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, also too, it's like, you see it, just an example, like a very, more common example is like, you go to a rock concert now, and everyone holds up their phones, right? Take it to video it, whatever. And they're like, it's a mediated experience. It's through the phone instead of just experience it raw. And, there's something like, you see something beautiful. This morning, I saw a beautiful sunrise outside my window.
Yeah.
Not quite as beautiful as what I wrote about, but I took a picture of it, and it just never looks the same. It doesn't have that same grandeur. So, maybe it's good that there was no photos of it. So it's better in your memory,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And, at one time I was on a helicopter on our honeymoon and we were flying over Hawaii and I was trying to take pictures and I was trying to look out the window and I got dizzy doing back and forth. So I had to make a decision, do I look out the window or do I look through the camera? So it's fascinating to see what do you really experience as opposed to what are you watching on the screen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's very cool. Tell us a little bit, if you would, about the Nerd Count, the podcast you do.
Sure. So Mercurio de Rivera and I started a podcast last year. Might have been late 24 we started. So I think I want to say we have 16 episodes so far. And it's not as regular as we would like it to be. Our original goal was to do 2 episodes a month, but we both got sidetracked with life as it goes. But it's really fun. It's just we just like to find interesting people in the genre to interview and to talk, or sometimes it's just us talking about stuff. We did a fun one at ReaderCon 2 years ago where we interviewed, we did a speed round where we asked everyone, we interviewed them for 5 minutes each. And it's what was your best ReaderCon memory? When was your first ReaderCon? And we got people who had been there for 20 plus years, maybe more. And then someone who was their first ReaderCon. We had ACYs on recently, Teresa DeLucci, Jason Samford, Eliadon Johnson. We've had a lot of people on. It's going well, I think.
Cool. That's terrific. I have not gone out to look for it, but now I think I'm going to have to go do that. But I'm going to wait till after the show, okay? If that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on and reading with us. It was so much fun to hear your words after having read them. So that was very cool.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks. And what I'd love to do is ask our friend Ellie Daniels to join us too. An American author, poet, and editor living in Australia, Ellie Daniels is a 2-time Bram Stoker Award nominee and finalist for the Shirley Jackson, Borealis, Ditmar, and Australasian Shadows Awards. Her novel, Serpent's Wake, A Tale for the Bitten, from Interactive Publications, is a notable work with the HWA's Mental Health Initiative. Her recent work appears in anthologies published by Godmother of Horror, Flame Tree, Black Spot, Crystal Lake, Hippocampus, Twisted Wing, Underland, 34 Orchard, Timber Ghost, and Dark Ink. She holds an MFA from Emerson College, has edited over 150 titles, and directs Brisbane Writers Workshop. More about Lauren at brisbanewriters.com. Lauren?
Thank you, Carol, and thank you, Jim. Thanks, everybody, for hanging around. It's so nice to be here. I'll be reading to you from Stomata, which is in the Darkness Most Foul anthology, which was there in the little segue, edited by Elaine Pascal. I've also edited it for time, but to ensure to give you all the feels. It's science fiction horror, and I do have a content warning of suicide. The story opens on the International Space Station and touches down in Hokkaido, Japan, and ends on Cape Cod. Like the infected stickleback fish that linger at the water's surface for bird hosts to catch them, or the zombie ants that climb before releasing cordyceps spores, humanity experiences nature's resolve to ensure photosynthesis continues after a mass extinction event. Stomata. Ecstasy. In orbit, the same dream, telescoping time, asleep in the straitjackets. I grip the bar and gaze out at the sunlit surface of the earth. The view is just as the others told me, but without so many words. I am pierced by a state of grace. Everything within me rises weightless towards home, but I resist. I press my spine against the hexagonal structure of the cupola and plant my feet firmly. Time spirals through me from a 6-year-old girl adjusting the eyepiece on her father's telescope through the collage of sacrifices that brought me here. And in this gaze, all memory thins to vapor. I break apart, and abandon the hunger to prove myself worthy of this uniform as ribbons of clouds and swathes of blue turn before me. In the distance, the light is just right and reveals the gold amniotic aura of Earth's atmosphere. You're okay, you're okay. I shudder at the sound of my voice, my eyes wide in subdued light. I slow my breaths, drawing inhalations into the reaches of my body. Awareness returns, and I'm in my sleep pod, anchored by nylon and fleece. I remember Hiroyuki is monitoring respiration. He'll know I had that dream again. All of us have it, and it plays like an ancient scroll of echoes circling the earth. Each of us, its antennae. Aside from the bewilderment the phenomenon causes, the noise of the dream distresses us the most, thunderous against the station's ambient 60 decibels we've learned to accept. And with that thought again, I see the sunrise flowing between towering pines and arching ferns while bellowing rumbles through the greenery. Startling clicks reverberate over layers of guttural moans and sharp laughter. A protracted wail like a foghorn erupts. Treetops shake with pretosaurs gripping branches, screaming and beating their great wings. We dream of dawn on primordial earth. Jesus. I unzip my sleeping bag and slide out, floating in my pajamas. Steadying my drift, I open the accordion door of my pod and find Hiro, his toed socks tucked into the brackets outside his own quarters. There is warm coffee, Daphne. He cradles his arms and doesn't ask how I slept. From within his pod, a small watercolor of a red-crowned crane catches the light, a painting by his daughter Tomoe. He once told me that his favorite folktales, in his favorite folktales, cranes transport souls to heaven. Before he pulls the pod doors closed, Hiro says, "It's your turn to water the veggie, if you'd like." All of us want to take care of something green, so despite the hundreds of physics and molecular science experiments underway at the station, we rotate the role of gardener. The vegetable production system, the veggie, was once a mere cabinet on the space station, but with more funding and a growing urgency about our ability to grow food in space, it's expanded into a multi-billion-dollar module. Over the portal to the veggie, one of the previous astronauts had inscribed Cicero with black pen. Si hortum in bibliotheca habes nihil dirit. If you have a garden in the library, nothing is missing. I argue with Cicero every time, my private ritual in a place with no privacy. Touch this time, I think we need touch. Last time it was bees, or did Cicero just assume they came with his garden? As I depart the monochrome of the Concord node, the bold, leafy burst of the veggie arrests me. The contrast conjures a sensation that I've caught the plants mid-conversation, and they've paused to see who it is this time. I glide toward the supply drawer, fingertips brushing against leaves. Overhead, the rows of LEDs simulate Earth's daylight hours. Once we learned that root systems didn't need gravity to develop, but simply extend away from a light source, we found we could grow almost anything from seed here. One plant pillow at a time, I fill a syringe with recycled water and inject it into the hydroponic system. I linger, touching and inspecting, row by row. Watering is all I need to do, but I whisper over the array, from the heady seedlings to their mature red romaine, Chinese cabbage, Russian kale, and electrical storm of peppers, red, orange, yellow. As my fingers brush deep purple undulations and fractals of fanning jade, I know every single one of us talks to the plants. Hiro sings to them in Japanese, beautiful spirit that he is. The carbon dioxide is good for them, we tell ourselves, but it's more than that. Hiro and I also believe that on Earth, birdsong aids photosynthesis. The frequencies stimulate the tiny pores on the underside of the leaves, the stomata, increasing the plant's respiration as carbon dioxide is absorbed and oxygen is released. Birds wake plants, and in space, we are the birds. I'm whispering nonsense to the Swiss chard when Piotr brushes my arm and I jump. He takes hold of my elbow to steady me. Hiro gave my gardening spot to you. His thick shoulders shadow the plants. Are you and he? No. I brush his hand from my elbow. Do you want to? No. Not many people get the chance to have. I don't want to have space sex with you, Piotr. I look him up and down, floating there as salt and pepper coif, waving like seaweed. He is brutally handsome. He also has a wife and 2 boys in St. Petersburg praying for him. And here he is, still in his pajamas without underpants. We both know it'll be better in my imagination anyway. Oof, yet. Piotr turns towards the kohlrabi, its veins amethyst mapping viridian. Did dinosaurs sing for you again? Is that why Hero gave you my spot? If you can call it singing. What do you call it? I latch the supply drawer and breathe the word horrifying. Like eating that cheese spread from a bag. Once you dream of dinosaurs singing, you are part of this elite organization. I launch gently toward the portal to give him his time alone in the veggie. Everything starts with dreams, Piotr calls after me. The Neolithics dreamed of a wheel, Goddard the rocket, Korolev of us here. Now we dream of dinosaurs singing to the trees. What does it mean? I don't know, Piotr. I slip from the portal. Cascade. Opposable thumbs grasp and wipe out worlds. I find out about Hero on Christmas morning. Since we left the space station a decade ago, he sends images from his daughter's exhibitions every year. A courtship of cranes, crested ibis with rose gold, wing feathers spread like fingers, a snowy owl in a poplar tree. Last Christmas, he sent me a fat little Shima Inaga, a cotton ball of a bird with tiny black eyes. For 10 years, he's reached out, but not this Christmas, which is warm everywhere and lit almost globally by a strange humidity, not snowflakes. Sitting up in bed at 5 a.m, I watch Hero standing in the gray light of the shrouded window. A waning moon still haunts the gauze of my curtains. His back is to me, but I know this man, cradling his arms. His gaze is aimed at the part in my curtains, at the twin red maples in my yard, skeletal in the dark and draped in moonlit fog. Earlier this week, I saw the headlines. The last of the red-crowned cranes died in Japan from an avian flu. That traces back to some poultry farm in Oklahoma or maybe Scotland, finger pointing. It's no one's fault and it's everyone's, our collective appetites to blame. I put aside my end of semester grading and message Hero. I didn't mention the cranes. My message remained unread as I turned in my grades for the courses and the university went on break. Now Hero stands semi-transparent, staring out my window while I hold my breath. My phone app lights. Piotr, requesting voice and camera. I look back and Hero is gone. Good morning, Daphne. Piotr's eyes are red, his face tight. I'm sorry to call so early. I was up. I adjust my glasses. It's Hero. My heart skips, then aches hard. You two were close. I thought you should hear this, not from the news. Dawn silently illumes the window as Piotr tells me how Hero ended his life 3 days ago. He was feverish and complaining of flu symptoms. Then one night, he washed what looked like a pharmacy down with a bottle of sake, walked out from his home into the cold mist of Hokkaido, and died. There is more, Piotr says. His daughter, Tomoe, she called me. It seems they cannot recover his body. It is lodged in a tree. They cannot separate it. What do you mean in a tree? She sent the video. There is something very wrong in the corpse. I don't know how to say this. There are reports. There are others, just not in the news yet, but it will be. Send it. It is very bad to see a friend like this, and no one understands. Send it. A tiny yellow envelope appears on my screen. The video launches and I see Hero nude and wound impossibly into the crook of a large but semi-denuded poplar. The top branches are winter bare as they should be, but the crux of where Hero's body is lodged is thick and feathery with green leaves. I lean in as the image grows closer. Hero's flesh is split and submerged in a tangle of new shoots. Young branches pierce his arms, his torso, his legs. His bare feet dangle muddy toes pointing to the wet earth where his robe, his yukata, lay abandoned on the ground. I choke, my breath seizing, but I'm unable to stop the video. Piotr speaks, but I don't know what he's saying. A woman's voice pleads in Japanese, her words fragmented with sobs as she pans out. The feed shakes across the barren farmland that surrounds the lone tree. The long shadows make it either dusk or dawn. The image zooms in on Hero's face, blurs, then grows crisp, filling the frame with vacant, milky eyes and parted, swollen lips. Tomoe's voice falters as she changes to English. Listen, she says, choking back a sob to the morning song. Hero's corpse shivers as if insects fill the chest cavity. I hear a soft whistle, the wind teasing the microphone. Pink bubbles form at the corners of his mouth. A shiver of sound rises, streaming with fluid from the nostrils and lips down his chin. Hero's mouth widens, gurgling, then it screams and doesn't stop. Thank you.
Lauren, thank you so much.
Sorry to leave you there.
That was wonderful. No, that was great. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
It's very emotional. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
And I love that we have such a focus on space and stuff tonight too, because Charles was off in wild outdoor spaces, and Matt on Mars, and you're here and going up a tree. Oh my goodness, what a fascinating evening we have. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, there's a theme.
Yeah.
Yes. We're living up to our galactic terrors.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah. Oh my
That's
God.
terrific. Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about the anthology this was published in. I think we had the cover up on your intro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Darkness Most Foul.
Darkness Most Foul. It's all bird imagery and bird themed, and it is quite a table of contents with stories really from all over the world. I think gorgeous voices. So I feel like part of this.
Yeah. And the cover is stunning too.
Yes.
That's awesome. So I just was so taken by the way the character merges, with the tree. It's just, oh my goodness, that seems like the final.
Here.
Yeah, no, it's in a good way. I
also
also
Yuki Sanada in mind. I love that actor, and he's been in a few of my favorite sci-fis, and I just pictured him, and I thought maybe one day he would love to play that role. He'd be amazing climbing up there. And
I'm having coffee. I'm having coffee with him tomorrow. I will ask him. That'd be great. I also just want to point out that this story is the one that's the finalist for the Bram Stoker Award. All the voting is in, so you have to do this wonderful thing where you have to wait many months until StokerCon to find out the results. But no matter what, you were a finalist forever, and this story is awesome. So yeah, very cool.
It's a nice wait. It's a nice place. It's the Schrodinger's cat of the wait. So we're all winners.
Yeah, that's cool. And Lauren, I'm also intrigued because you also are a poetry finalist for the 2025 Australasian Horror Writers Association Shadow Awards. So could you tell us a little bit about the writing stories and poetry? How does this work in your head?
Well, I need to show the cover for that one.
Yes.
Madness.
And the anthology is also a finalist. Yes.
That's right.
The one's edited by Dave Jeffrey and Lee Murray. Right? Yeah.
That's right. So I have a poem in there called Speak. And I started out very young writing poetry and stopped after I studied it. I stopped because I felt like I was talked out of it. I studied too much and then felt like, oh, I can't do it. And then it crept back. I have to say, when the HWA Poetry Showcase came out and Genevieve Flynn was like, hey, why don't you chuck a poem in there to see what happens? So it was like 20 years lapse where I didn't write any, and I wrote Night Terrors for that. And then that was an Australasian Shadows finalist as well. So I find poetry is a really nice way to try to get my head around things. And now that I've come back to it, it lets me hold a question and try to understand how I think about something or how I feel about something. So it's nice and compact, whereas some of us can toil over short stories for months and months, like a year, even if we're really trying to get somewhere with it. So poems are quick.
Yeah.
You find that it's quicker to write them, and that it's less intense than a short story?
Yes, I will. I'll shelve a poem sometimes. I'll put it away for a while and come back to it, and then give it another round. But yeah, overall, a lot quicker than a short story. I really do. I have an exorcism for my short stories.
Wait, is that to get them out of your head or onto the paper or what? Yes.
All of it. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. I have to say, our wonderful friend Linda Addison, the queen of poetry, of course, was so great at one of the Stoker workshops that I did with her. She's like, okay, just do it. Just think about it. Put some words together that match, and just go, just do it. So I didn't ever stop and study it, and I was thinking, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but maybe, who knows, you know.
I think it's a birthright. We can all write poetry. We just have to spend time with it, turn it around, and try to say more with less. You know, I think I got duped for a while there, but no, we can all do. I love that, and horror poetry is on such a surge right now. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
There's so many authors writing great horror poetry right now from so many different perspectives. It's really amazing. I was very happy to see, how healthy that was on the Stoker preliminary ballot this year. Just so many great works. I mean, in all the categories, but in poetry in particular, I think, and it seems like horror for some reason, and I can think of a couple of reasons why, but horror really loves poetry in a way that other genres, not that they don't like poetry, but like there's an affinity, a greater affinity with, I think, horror writers for poetry. Do you think so?
I think a lot of us maybe were raised on, Annabelle Lee and The Raven. So we might have started with a bit of horror from Poe and then gone from there.
Yeah, that was one thing I was thinking led to it is, the connection to Poe, certainly. But I think it also allows us as authors, and I haven't written poetry in a long time. I like you, I used to write poetry and kind of gravitated away from it. Not because I was dissuaded, but because I just was doing other stuff. But it's a way to grapple with some really dark themes without, in a comfortable manner sometimes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's true. And the imagery, when we consolidate down to fewer words, a few words can make a fabulous image, which is just so important for horror. So that's very cool.
Yes. So Lauren, go ahead, Carol.
Oh, I was just going to ask for your Brisbane Writers Workshop, how does that affect what you write? And tell us just real quickly what that is, what the workshop is.
Oh, sure. Well, when I first moved out to Australia, I wanted to get more into publishing because in Boston I was working in computer publishing, so magazines, and then coming out here I got hooked up with a publishing house and started teaching workshops and decided to just open my own little school, and that also includes editing. So sometimes I'll pair somebody up with an editor, or I'll take on clients that way, or and also just run these workshops. And I find that it keeps me sharp. I mean, when you're teaching, you have to stay on the edge of everything and stay current. And so much is changing in publishing and writing. So, just tonight talking about mashups and how people love science fiction and horror and weird Western science fiction, all that. Just, I think there's massive readership for these genres now. So it keeps you fresh when you have to teach and edit as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like something I've always found from being part of critique groups is that I've actually learned more from critiquing than from receiving a critique.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like you're teaching writing, you're teaching editing,
Totally. I tell people that create a writing group, and then I give them these guidelines that I basically distilled from Emerson College. And if anybody wants them, email me, where it shows you how to run a writing group and what to look for. And just doing that, and especially when people read out of their genre a bit, so they're reading lots of different things. And I encourage fiction writers to read nonfiction, because sooner or later you're going to have to write a personal essay. You're going to have to write a nonfiction piece promoting the book that you're launching, But I have this like set of guidelines that helps people sharpen in terms of recognizing when something works, when it doesn't, and how to articulate why and to use evidence, and that whole process makes people so much sharper and more determined, I think, as writers.
Great.
Yeah. And of course, I think one of the key things to remember in a critique group is that feedback is a gift. And so if we give it that way with that intention, then it's helpful. And if we can receive the feedback that way, they're not ripping me apart. They're not criticizing me. They're being constructively critical.
Right.
So,
Right.
cool.
And you can sift through it too, and become your own compass at times, and know that even if you don't agree with what's said, somebody stumbled, and that's important. And also, one of the most important rules for a feedback session is don't write the piece. So you don't write a solution, but you can point out technically what's wrong and what's happening. And I know some writers struggle with that, but it's a good rule. It keeps your process clean,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can give our opinion, our feedback on how we experienced it, not what we think they should do with it. Yeah.
Right. Don't just put a lady with a hat in there. I think you can't get rid of her once you picture her, she's there.
That's
Now I'm thinking of Charles with his hat, though. So, okay, that's good.
his hat.
Good segue.
Hat, yeah. Oh, that's terrific. Well, this is very cool.
Do you have a preferred mode that you like when you think about writing? You're most comfortable writing short stories or writing longer fiction or poetry?
I don't know. I find writing really hard. I find it really hard work. And I also love, it's like love-hate. So I find variety good because that helps me stay in the game. I know that after Serpent's Wake, I spent years on that. And when it was out, I did a book tour, and I was out with, and because it's trauma based as well, I was getting a lot of disclosures, and I didn't write for a year after that because it just took so much out of me. But I know I would like to go into longer pieces again, because I think I might lean that way. And maybe that's why short stories have been so beneficial for me, because it said, no, you have a little package, you got to keep it sharp, stay focused, you don't have a lot of space to muck around here. And I think that discipline has really helped the longer fiction game as well. Yeah. So it all like dovetails. I love personal essays, though. I do. I think they're one of my favorites.
Well, it's interesting. So was it the tour itself that was draining, or this interaction with readers, or I guess, who were telling you stuff? I assume that they felt comfortable speaking to you to,
Probably the content, because I didn't know that that's what would happen. But I mean, the book is, it's a fairy tale for the bitten. It's a fairy tale for adults who have gone through trauma. And then what happened on the tour, though, is I had 12-year-olds, readers as young as 12 coming. I had veterans showing up and talking to me. I had situations I had no tools to anticipate, but and it was fine. But I just didn't know it would be that rich and that intense and incredible. So I really needed to rest after. I just needed to take a break. And I did a lot of editing for that year. So that was fine. Yeah.
Exercise some different literary muscles.
Right.
Yeah. So we do have a comment from Marianne. I'm not sure if it's Chapel or Chappelle.
Yeah.
You're a very good teacher. The class you taught last year at StokerCon was my favorite.
Yay!
Magic realism for rebels. That was perfect.
And I'm selfishly pulling that out because I thought that was such a great idea for a workshop. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, Marianne.
Yeah, thank you for approving that, Jim. Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah. Cool.
Terrific. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for reading and for reworking the story to fit the format. I know that's hard. I've done that myself a few times, and I won't say there haven't been times where I'm like, oh, gee, why didn't I make these cuts when I published this? But
right?
No.
I know. But if you want the full story,
yes,
this up, because there was some really pretty imagery that hit the cutting room floor to fit into the time. So
yeah, that's cool. Well, I enjoyed the long version and the short version. So
thank you. And thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
All right. Why don't we have Matthew and Charles join us?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back. And Charles has yet another hat.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay. Now I'm going to destroy what's left of Jim's mind. Watch this.
Ah, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Oh my God. All right. How many hats do you have, Charles?
I think we figured out what the problem was with the technical issues. We were just stuck
Wrong
in a
hat.
loop here. Yeah.
We were Charles's hats were buffering.
Yes, the haberdashery crisis. That's really what caused the problem.
Here's Carol.
Yeah, no, it doesn't line up right. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, thank you all for bearing with us tonight, and for whatever mysterious etheric gremlins were fouling up our original attempt to get this live stream going. We appreciate your patience, and we're so happy to have you here and sharing your work with us. We'd love to hear what you have coming up next. What can everyone in the audience and me and Carol look for next from you? Charles, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah.
So my commitment with Dusty Saddle is to do a lot of Westerns this year. So Sundown and High Noon will be out. And then there's going to be 3 Blood River books. And then there's going to be 3 Timberwolf books. And then there's going to be, can you pop up that graphic? Because I'm not technically supposed to show it. It's the pre-release cover, but I'm going to show it anyhow.
Am I going to get
There's going to be Elmer McCurdy.
There we go.
I wrote this book
record's
in
straight.
12 days, including the research. I was familiar with him already. It's historical fiction, and it's part of Dusty Saddle's celebration of America's 250th birthday this year. And I don't have a release time on it yet, but this one might have been the most fun I've ever had writing anything.
I think they better release this quick before you get to the end of that fuse. Look at that. Awesome.
And now I have to get a Boulder hat, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, another hat.
And Nightmare Press has got 7th Generation slotted either for this year or the beginning of next year. And that's a science fiction story about what do you do to keep people engaged 7 generations down on things like geology when they've never stood on a rock? How do you keep people involved in animal husbandry when there are no functioning farms on your ship? How do you preserve all that knowledge and make it all work? And we get into fun things like the planet deniers. I've never met anyone who stood on a planet. They're obviously fiction. There is no mission. There's only the ship.
Yeah. I can
And
see that.
the cover that you guys showed at the beginning is Shadows Without Light, which has just gotten a re-release through fantasticbooks.biz. And I'm really excited about that too. And a few more things coming up this year because I don't like to be bored.
And I'm assuming, Charles, you also don't like to sleep.
I have had 2 sleep studies where they've said that what I do does not classify as human sleep. They couldn't prove I ever hit REM state. So it's not that different being awake or sleeping for me. They're really just kind of the same thing.
Okay.
This explains so much. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
plenty to look out for from you coming up.
Thanks.
Amazing. And Matthew, I know I always feel bad when we have someone on whose book has just been published and we're like, hey, congratulations. What's next?
What's next? If we pretend that this is 2 weeks ago, I have a story coming out in Lightspeed. The story came out last week in Lightspeed called S.B. Droger, Dreams of War, which is kind of like my anti-Doge story. It may or may not involve time travel and government employees. It's pretty dark, pretty opposite in tone from the Rainseekers, but I like that one quite a bit. Mercurio de Rivera, the person I do the Nerd Count podcast with, we had a story come out in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction, or novella called Threat Assessment, came out late last year. That's going to appear in Year's Best Hard Science Fiction, edited by Alan Castor. And I guess I can announce it because I just got the contract today. Jamal Hodge is doing an anthology called Shards of Gotham. So I have a short story in that. But other than that, I'm just working on the follow-up to the Rainseekers.
Awesome.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, because you have a lot of things planned for that, I'm sure. Yeah. And also there's, of course, fantastic fiction at KGB.
Fantastic fiction. Yeah. So if you live in New York City area, you can come to the reading series. It's in person at the KGB bar, 85 East 4th Street, every second Wednesday. And this coming April something, whatever the second Wednesday is, it's Michael Swanwick and Mike Allen reading for us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And if you can't make it, we have a podcast. It's audio podcast of the recording of the readings that you can listen. So we do that every month. And yeah, it's a good time. If you come to New York City on the second Wednesday of the month, it's really fun.
Where can people find the podcast recordings?
If you just search your favorite podcast site for fantastic fiction at KGB, or you could go to the website at kgbfantasticfiction.org.
Cool.
Yeah. And there are some of us in attendance here who are regular attendees. Teal, James, Glenn, and I are there pretty much every month because it's a fantastic selection of different varieties of speculative fiction and just always wonderful readers, wonderful words. So I recommend it highly.
And Lauren, how about you? What can we look for coming up?
Well, the first thing I'd love to say is I'm coming to StokerCon because Marianne mentioned the course, and I believe I'm teaching a course with Genevieve.
I think that's very likely, yes.
It's a possibility. And Genevieve Flynn and I really love teaching structure and Kishoten Ketsu, which is the structure of sinners. So fingers crossed that all comes together. The other thing is, Matthew, I'm with you in the Shards of Gotham anthology. I've got
awesome. Cool. Very cool.
Yes, Jamal Hodge got us to, with Ruin Books, which is so exciting. What a great publisher. Mm-hmm. And my story is called The 4 Stages of Fire. And again, like Silk, my other short story that I wrote about my grandmother, and Darkness Repeat, she's loving this, I'm sure. The 4 Stages of Fire is about her time working as a 19-year-old in the West Village for a restaurant that had been a speakeasy during Prohibition, and like all these personalities and stars and writers used to come in, and I gave it a supernatural element because it was a time of survival for a lot of New Yorkers. So it's set in September or August 1939 when Germany's poised to invade Poland. So that isolationist America is happening with a lot of immigration and a lot of really devastatingly hard work and no real safety net for people. So that's my exciting news there. Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Jim, how about you? What's coming up for you?
Well, I do have a couple of things I can mention. I will jump on the Shards of Gotham bandwagon if that's okay. I also have a story in Shards of Gotham called The Walkout, which I'm very excited about, and really happy to be part of that book, seeing it come together, and I think it's going to be something special. So excited for it. And then Raw Dog Screaming Press this September will publish my new anthology, Abandoned Asylum.
Yes,
which is a lot of fun, great stories, and the selection of photographs I've taken over the years at an actual abandoned asylum here on Long Island.
I've been waiting to see this one because everything I've been hearing about is just fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah. And Carol, how about you? What's on the horizon?
I have a bunch of things coming up all like every weekend in April, because you do that, there's Liberty State Fiction Writers Conference, and there's a book fair on the 11th, which is a Saturday. I'm doing a talk at the Pocono Liars Conference in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania on best practices for handling submissions and working with your editor. And then on Saturday and Sunday, May 2nd and 3rd, a day or two of wine, romance, and more. This is another book fair in Columbia, New Jersey, which is a really cool thing. It's at a winery, so there's fun things to do and people to chat with, and there's all variety. It's not just wine and romance. There's like all varieties of books there and such. So that's a really fun thing to go to. So if anybody's in the Western New Jersey area, I hope you can pop in on May 2nd and 3rd. It'd be fun to see you.
Yeah, you had me at wine.
Yeah, right.
Wine and books. Okay, let's.
Yeah,
Great.
can't beat that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool. So and we should also say our next Galactic Terrors event is coming up back to the second Thursday in April 9th. We'll be hosting Angela Eureka Smith, Gordon Linsner, Hildy Silverman to celebrate the 60th anniversary of Space and Time magazine and
Cool.
its founder, Gordon's birthday.
Yeah.
And we
Oh.
also have a special video message for Linda Addison, who one of the poetry editors. So,
That should be fun.
yeah.
But I think Space and Time is one of the few independent genre magazines that has been around that long. I can't think of another one that has been around for 60 years.
Yeah. Gordon started it with those really cool purple mimeographs when he was in high school that you used to be able to sniff the really cool weird smell that they made.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So very cool. So mark your calendars for that. We'll have the event out soon for that one.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool. So wow. We actually stayed up a whole half an hour late, Jim. This is amazing. But oh no, Charles, what have you got there?
Just mentioning Horror Words podcast because I forgot to.
Thank
And I
you.
want John Frater to get mad at me.
No, you'll get in trouble there.
Nice.
Yeah, don't get horror writers mad at you, Charles. Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone staying up the extra time since we got a late start tonight. And as of now, I still haven't gotten any serious response from StreamYard about what went wrong. So we'll just hope it doesn't happen again next time.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. I love hearing the author's words in their own voice, and that way, when I read your stories again in the future, I will hear you in my ear, and not just on the paper. So, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Hope you will join us next month, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Cool.